I think we're there. No? Okay. All right, guys. Well, good morning, one and all. I want to welcome everyone to another installation of Reparations Saturdays. This program is being put on by the High Point NAACP, and it's being brought to you by the good folks at Flex the Vote. Here on Reparations Saturdays, we are speaking to the reparations resolution that has been presented before the city of High Point. That resolution has been accepted, and now there is a commission that is going to be established that will look into reparations for the citizens of High Point. My name is Rob Sims. I am your host, and of course, today we have our panel, which consists of Ms. Courtney Wilson, Mr. Thomas Scott, Mr. Ken Watts, and Jason Hicks. We want to welcome everybody to the show. Panel, real quick, you want to say your good mornings, your introductions, and we'll go ahead and get started. Come on, guys, don't be shy now. Come on, we're a team.
Greetings.
Good morning, kid. Thank you very much.
Greetings and salutations. It's a muggy weekend. We're gonna make it work.
Okay, very good, very good.
Good morning, folks. Glad to be back. Been a hectic 2 weeks, but glad to just be a part of everything once again, and I'm just trying to get back into the swing.
Good morning, everyone. Jason Hicks here. Just happy to be here. Ready to get started off with some good conversation this morning. Look forward to what we'll be discussing today.
And Connie, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
I'm great. How's everyone?
I think we're pretty good. I think we have some eager individuals. We've been kind of going through introductions, but there's a sense that these people are ready to go. so I think we're going to go ahead and jump into this. And this morning, I was trying to wait and see if our guest was going to come on, but recently there have been developments with the reparations resolutions, the reparations movement that is taking place here in High Point. There was a meeting earlier this week of the NAACP in the city of High Point, and they have established a selection committee that will establish a reparations commission that is going to look into reparations for the citizens of High Point. This is a 60-day window that we have to get individuals on the commission, and then to have that commission, which is a 13-panel commission. There's going to be 2 individuals who will be from the NAACP. There will be 2 individuals from the city of High Point, and then the remaining individuals will be selected from that selection committee to be on the commission. Once that commission has been established, I believe there's 1 year that the commission has to bring resolutions that they will present to the city for reparations for citizens of High Point. So I just want to start with that topic, and I just want to go around the room real quick. How do you guys feel about that? What do you guys think? Is this progress? Do we have more work to do? What is our next step in this path that we call reparations?
Don't be shy.
Say that one more time, Rob. Say your question one more time, I'm sorry.
Okay, no. Reparations. We are now moving into the phase where we are establishing the commission to look into reparations for the citizens of High Point. So the question was, how do you guys feel about that? What do you guys think that next step represents? Is it a good thing? Do we have more work to do? You know, how do you guys feel about how we're moving towards these reparations?
I think we have a lot of work to do. I'm excited about the possibilities that this gives us as in the Black community. I am a lot leery on it because I want to make sure that we as a community communicate with one another to know what our needs are and what that looks like moving forwards, and not just our needs, but the needs of generations to come, at least 10 to 12 generations to come. I'm very apprehensive on the fact that the city is not in support. The vote shows that. Knowing now that they haven't even established a budget to give us to share responsibility in this. And it definitely concerns me that we are the only ones really fighting for this. We are the only ones that want this, which is alarming that the city as a whole does not have some type of wanting Black people to move forward. So that is a concern in itself, that we are on defense. Why are we defense? Why can't we just play the game together? So I'm excited about this, but I'm very, very, very apprehensive because again, white people are not on board. The people that oppress us, that create these systems, that run day to day with us are not on board. And until we get more white faces in our spaces, I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm very, I don't really have 100% like great feelings that we're going to really move this needle, because the people that can move the needle aren't.
Hold on for a second, Courtney. Hold on for a second, Courtney. Connie, I think we got some background noise from you. Can you mute for just a second?
Yeah. Sorry.
All right.
So that was just
Go
what I
ahead,
have to
Courtney.
say. Yeah, that was really it in a nutshell. It's just very concerning that we are the ones. We should have a lot more people wanting this change as well.
Well, let me ask you this, Courtney. What would the help or the support that you mentioned the city does not have, what does that support look like, and how can we get that support? I mean, what should they be doing in this process?
We should have had a budget. That's number one. How can you move progress if you're not coming together? If we have said that the city has created a commission and the city has individuals on this commission, then where's the budget to create the change within the commission? The commission must run on consultants, experts. We must have those things to be able to move this forward. It's not the people of High Point necessarily and the individuals. Yeah, there are some, but the majority, that's not gonna, we need more in this. And if the city is willing to form a commission, then they should be more willing to get the word out, to start alerting citizens and making citizens more aware of what's going on in High Point, what the disparities are in High Point, putting a spotlight on that, and being more, everyone wants to say what they can do when they're running for offices and things. What are you doing for the Black community?
Great point, Courtney. But if they haven't done it in over 400 years, I don't know why we would expect it now. I mean, just being fair about it. I like the fact that we have a commission. I like the fact that there has been a resolution that the High Point NAACP presented to the city, and the city moved on it. Now we have 9 spots. We can put those experts into. The budget could come or is coming. I think there may have been some conversation about that. I don't know if there was a dollar amount. There was, a verbal commitment. But I mean, I see this as an opportunity to put those experts in place. We need to figure out what it is those prerequisites are, what the city's looking for, what the commission is looking for this commission, because commission is going to have a job trying to put together a reparations resolution that will support the Black citizens of this city. I mean, because already people are talking programs. This panel
No
doesn't like
program.
programs.
No, no
We're not into
We're not even
programs.
going to accept that. We're not accepting that. Though.
You see,
We have
so
to stand strong in our demands with that.
absolutely. So Thomas, you were going to say something, sir.
No, I wasn't right now. Actually, I muted myself.
Okay. So anybody else? I know the city has put out a application for those that want to serve on the commission. I think the deadline for submitting your application is April the 8th. And then I think soon thereafter, I think the decision is made by May the 2nd, I think, or May the 8th, one of those. And individuals are on the commission. So, you guys, what should we be expecting from this commission? What are some of the things that we want to see come out of this commission that we can take to the citizens and, see what they want?
I think we need the data to be collected and submitted. So it's just a matter of people willing to do the research and gather all the information that is out there. I have a question though. What is the application process like? Does anyone know? Well, like what are there any qualifications, minimum
good. We
requirements?
really need to know that. Yeah.
That was going to be the hope of our guest today to come on, because I got a couple of pieces of information about that. Mostly what the selection committee is going to be looking for in the applicants is going to be a background that goes to their education, their training, or activism. There has to be, some experience that, has to come with that. There is going to be an application process that is put through the city's website, and a resume is to be attached. And so these are just going to be the individuals that are going to be chosen for the commission. Now, the commission, I think they're also looking at having individuals from High Point. I'm not sure if that's surrounding areas or not. So, I do think we're going to have to pull them from High Point. They're going to be selected, and then the selection committee's request, or the what's the word I'm looking for? The people they choose for the positions, they're going to be presented before city council to vote and approve. You see, so I don't know what happens if they go before the board and it doesn't go through, because I don't think we've ever discussed that. But I don't know, guys. You tell me.
And
What do you guys think?
So the commission has to be approved by the council that halfway approved the commission.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. That's exactly what's going to happen. Now, I've also heard that the city has already, chosen who they want on the commission. And I'm not sure if the NAACP has theirs, but, we got
Anthony has
13
hand
people.
up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Graham, welcome.
Hey, how you doing? So I just got a call, so I know y'all were talking about the application process, I believe.
Mhm.
Did I hear that? Was it mentioned about the application being online? There's a link in the application that will allow you to upload your resume. And what I'm trying to suggest to folks, I haven't talked to anyone directly per se, but love to tell this group, is that at the bottom of that application, and I know Rob, you're probably familiar with this, there's an opportunity for you to save it as a PDF. make sure that anyone that is interested in applying, that they save their application as just a record for themselves. I think it's just a good look. But the resume, and your application, that, you know, from the county site, I mean the city site, forgive me, is the process that I know about. I don't know if that helps any, that has been spoken to, so I just wanted to say that. You muted, bro.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I do want to introduce Mr. Tony Graham. Mr. Graham happens to be one of the members of the selection committee for the the reparations resolution that we have. So, Tony, welcome to the show. Tell us more, man. We want to know what we can expect, what kind of things we should be looking for as we move forward, and, you know, what kind of things you think we can do now that we've got a selection committee, we've got a commission coming, and what happens if the city does not approve our selections? Are you there?
Pandemonium.
Forgive me, I'm on my phone. I'm trying to get this thing unmuted. I'm sorry, sir. Thank you for that. I know one thing that we should expect, or at least from my perspective, let me just speak for Tony, okay? That we do consult knowledgeable people. I mean, that we get folks that have the understanding of Black studies, African American studies, that understands
Are you there? Come back. Come back. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we may have lost Mr. Graham, so I hope he comes back soon.
Well, if I could pick up maybe I think where he was coming from. You know, the people, well, I would like to point out one thing, is that the selection committee, from my understanding, is half us, half them. So, you know, half of the people, you know, doing the initial selections is going to be, you know, city representatives anyway. You know, which I think is, you know, about as fair a process as you can have, a 50-50 vote. So if you're able to get through that process, you know, I don't necessarily foresee that being a big stumbling block. You know, again, the real, you know, I think once the commission is formed, you know, I think it'll look probably about, you know, as good as it can. You know, I think the real uphill battle per se, that, you know, I might be concerned about is after, you know, the work actually commences. You know, is there going to be, you know, like Courtney suggested earlier, is there going to be a budget? You know, where the funds going to come from to put together a crack research team to, you know, really dive into this thing in a meaningful way, or is it going to just be, you know, performative? So, you know, as far as that, I mean, I do think if the selection committee, you know, approves, you know, these 13 open seats, and they don't all make it through the city council vote, I think that's gonna be a brouhaha, like for real. But I'm not necessarily that worried about that.
'Cause what might keep someone from being approved? Makes you wonder,
There-
right?
there's a phenomenon I've heard of from time to time known as two black. I don't know.
Sounds like the right place for two black to be.
I know, right? Exactly. I want to black it up.
So, oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, you go ahead, Connor.
So I'm wondering if well, wait, when is the deadline for applications?
April the 8th.
April 8th. So that's what we got about 3-4 more weeks,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
So does an applicant have to be a resident of High Point?
That's what I wanted Tony Graham, Mr. Graham, to speak to, because he's on that selection committee. So I know there's some things that he can share with us. I want to say I think it has to be a High Point resident. And somebody else is on that call. Ken, weren't you on that call with us?
I was, and yeah, I would say that as a general rule, you have to be a High Point resident. But it seems to me that it was said that you have to be a High Point, political boundary resident, not necessarily a postal service address that says High Point. But there are, as a factual matter, there are 2 seats available for people who are not from High Point. But I would say, I believe those are reserved for, real deal experts, like an economist and a lawyer type experts.
I think Jason had his hand up. Jason?
Yeah, I was just reading off of the city of High Point's website, and it says that the 9 should be High Point residents. But where I think that gets tricky, or not tricky, but where people may get confused is that the like Jamestown, part of Jamestown is High Point. Like you may have a Jamestown address, but you're actually receiving city services from the city of High Point. So then you would still be considered a High Point resident for purposes of any commission in High Point, not just this one. Is my understanding of how that'll work. So I just wanted to jump in and give some clarity on what I read from that. So
Yeah, I think you're correct.
Okay. So I guess the obvious question that I have is then who should be on the commission? I heard you mention economist, Ken.
Yeah.
Research, is a topic right now, and how we're gonna, finance that research, which we need to get into that, because how much money do we need? Because that I think that has to be addressed at some point. I mean, just saying money doesn't really help the situation, but we'll get to that later. So who should be on the commission? I'm taking all feelers.
I've
Who
got
should be
a
on the
question though. I got one question, Rob. Okay, so if we get an economist and a lawyer, you have to pay them. So that budget is key in some places, because if we're going to get, that's what I meant about having the budget though. In order to get players that are experts, then you got to pay these people. Unless these people have a genuine interest, they're from High Point and they want to be a part of it because they want to move their people forward too. I don't know who those individuals are.
I was gonna say
Are they
we need
applying for the
those.
commission?
Okay, Mr. Graham, real quick, and then we'll go back to the list. On you, Tony.
Yeah, I just wanted to apologize. Little technical difficulties on my side from earlier when I dropped off. But in the actual resolution, right? Let me just speak to this. I'm gonna read it verbatim if you'll just bear with me for a second. Commission members,
The selection committee shall appoint the members of the commission, i.e. members, which shall consist of 13 individuals who are specially qualified to serve on the commission by virtue of their education, training, activism, or experience, particularly in the field of African American studies and repertory justice. And we've talked about what the 13 are. The 2 from the city, 2 from our branch, and 9 that will come from the community at large. I just heard Jason speak to the outline areas that receive city services. They would qualify as residents of High Point if they do have like a Jamestown address, or I know Jamestown. I don't know if there's any other local municipalities that have High Point. I don't know, you know, that crossover with Archdale and High Point, maybe they receive High Point services out there, or Pivot, I'm not sure. But that's, so again, you're asking based on education, training, activism, and experience as dictated and in the actual final resolution that's on the city site. Does that help any?
Yeah. And I guess that's the next question. Who should be on the commission, guys? I mean, it can be a name, or it can be, you know, someone is in a specific field, but who do we want to see on this commission? We've got an economist and a lawyer. Who else? A preacher?
No,
No.
no,
Wait a minute.
No.
Wait a minute. Everybody gets a
No.
vote. We already heard y'all. Thomas, what do you
no.
think? Thomas, what do you think?
Preacher, no.
What he gonna
Connie,
do
what-
for us? Call
wait,
Jesus?
wait,
Jesus
wait,
ain't
wait.
come yet.
Jesus is on the main line. Wait a minute. Connie, Connie, your vote, Connie.
Hold on, give me a moment, sir. No, definitely not any. Just by the behavior of the clergy overall, in light of this movement,
Problem.
I just don't see. I don't see a practical need for that sector of the community. Clergy, politicians, people who are tied into the economic interests of power brokers of this city. I would definitely be leery of that.
And
Okay.
anybody
People-
scared to give up their white check, we
Wait,
leery of them as well.
Wait a minute,
Hold
guys.
on,
Wait a minute.
I think I'm
Wait.
acquiescing with you, Courtney.
Okay. Wait.
I mean, the wine and croissant party crowd. I think we've had enough of them and their involvement, their lack of involvement, their misleadership.
Okay. Wait. Let's bring it back. Everyone gets a vote first. So I got you. I want to get back to you on that, Thomas, about the preachers, because the church has a history in the Black community. So we need to touch on that. Wait a minute. I got 3 no's. I have 3 no's. Connie, your vote.
Okay, I'm gonna say my vote, and Ms. Delia Bates has a hand up too. I vote yes for the preachers.
Okay. Jason,
No.
Tony. Well, not Tony. You can't answer. No, you're on the selection committee. You're out of that. Miss Bates, the floor is yours.
I vote yes for the preachers and for the ones who have the expertise and the knowledge and experience of the African American history, the experience that they can bring forth, not just anybody. And I don't think you should be knocking the preachers because you have not heard from them. You're just going by what hearsay as far as what you have not heard from them and what they're doing. You're not in their pulpits or in their churches, rather, listening to what they're saying. You're not in their conversations in the background, hearing what they're saying to the community. So I think you should reconsider those statements you're making.
Now,
You recognize a tree by the fruit it bears.
wait a minute, and let's talk about that, because what Ms. Bates has just said is something that we're overlooking, albeit everyone has an opinion. Remember, guys, this is a podcast, and we're here to share ideas. But historically, the church has been the center of the Black community. Now,
Yeah,
we've gotten to a point in 2022. Yes, things are different. Okay, because right now we have so many accesses to different options. You know, the people don't believe in going to church. Young folks have a a distrust of organized religion. I mean, you guys go through the whole process.
No,
But
we don't have. We don't have.
I
It's
understand.
not
Let me
organized
finish. No,
religion.
let me finish. Remember,
There's a
everyone
reason.
everyone
There's a
has a
reason
chance.
for what you're
Everyone
saying.
has a chance to speak. So let's make sure we allow people to speak. Okay, because again, the church is a place where you have mass congregations of Black folks. And if we're going to get a message out to a mass congregation of Black folks, which are old, young, middle of the road, that is an opportunity to get the message out. That's my point about it.
Is that the
Now-
same churches that we said they were going to give us 3 to 5 minutes to talk about reparations?
Of course, every
Everyone.
church, everyone. Yeah, everyone. I mean, yeah. Jason, you got your hand up.
All right. So yeah, I just wanted to say that I can appreciate and respect what Delia said. Position on, listening to the pastors and all that. But I think there's two things that she said that are important to recognize in that statement. And it's not towards Delia, but this is just as a holistic view of it. Is she said that the community, or that she said that people may not know what is being said in the pulpits and inside the churches. But that, to me, that's part of the issue, is that it's all being done within the churches and not as much in the community. And, what I've seen, at least in High Point, is that a lot of the pastors don't come from behind the pulpits until tithe and offerings fall, or there's issues that where there's cameras at. And I've seen that on a lot of issues. So I feel like there should be a certain responsibility to the churches to be involved in the community outside of just Sundays. It's just my thoughts.
I would like to hear Ken's commentary on what the reticence of involving the clergy, because I think it's going to fall in line with something
excuse
that
me.
I was thinking.
Okay, 1 second though with that, Thomas. Let's get to Connie and then Courtney, and then we'll come back. Miss Connie?
Okay, all right. Thanks. Okay, so I think the main thing here to keep in mind is the fact that these people are applying on a voluntary basis, which means you get involved because you want to be involved. So we can talk about the history of the Black church. It started out the centerpiece of how the word got around. From what I hear my other panelists say, it's turned into a whole nother mess, and it's not doing what it initially set out to do. That's fine. But the people, those pastors who want to just take the church's money or just wait on Jesus, they're probably not going to be the ones to run and go fill out an application. If they are, then we have to just understand what the application process is that Tony read out to us, and that's where they'll be judged by their fruit. Like Ken said, being a pastor is not a requirement to get in. So when they go to apply, you can't just stand on the fact alone that you're a pastor. You have to show your merit, your expertise, and the work that you have done towards reparation, towards, equality in your community. It's not just what you've done for your church, right? Or your family or your neighborhood. So I think that to say no pastors, first of all, we need the people who are willing and able to show up. That's what we need. And I don't think one should be left out of that number simply because they're a pastor. I don't think one should be let into the number simply because they're a pastor either. But it's all about the intention and the willingness and the work that they have to stand on, to me. So I'm just saying, I'm not discriminating. I'm not going to, say, oh, nah, no pastors allowed. Because if you think about it, lots of pastors are not just pastors. They have day jobs. So there could be pastors who also have experience in these other areas, who might have gotten an education in African American studies, people who are well connected. There are some churches, whether we can talk about, we can debate all day, y'all, how effective the church is in the community. But the reality is some have great reach. Some of them do. Like Sims just said, people aren't even going into the building anymore. Well, some of these churches have thousands of views and subscribers on YouTube, and people with their eyes on the church from like all around the country. I don't think we need to count people out who can help, if they're willing to help and if they have the ability to help. That's my spiel.
Courtney, you're next.
Okay, so I want to be very clear when I said no pastors, so he won't just, because Constance just laid on a lot of that. It isn't that we're saying no pastors, the ones that have Africana studies, expertise in, that's their expertise. I was just completely saying pastor as itself, not just a pastor. When they said pastor, it didn't come with all the other accolades behind it. So if it comes with all the other accolades behind it, then that's understandable, because it's an expert in what we're trying to move the needle forward. So be very clear from my mouth that, of course, we would take a pastor on. I would be more than willing if they had the accolades to back them up. But just coming in the position of a pastor, that's not going to do it. That's not going to be enough to cut it. And a lot of times in our community, it's always the pastor that goes up, that stands, and that's what, like, they represent the Black community, and that's not necessarily the leader of the Black community. And we get tagged along with that, or artist, or a famous person. So that's that. I just wanted to move away from that person and move into the role of an expert and a person that can move the needle forward for our community. So I wanted to be clear when it came to pastor. I'm not bashing a pastor per se. And then we can go down that rabbit hole as well, because the gig might be up on that whole thing until we can really find our religion and our truths in that. And those are in the pyramids and not necessarily some may be in the Bible, but some may not be. In that narrative that our God ever created a slave itself is crap. So we know the writing of that. And I'm not finished, Rob. And I think we really need to to learn more, to educate ourselves more on what it is we do follow. When we say we're Christians, what are we following when we say that? So those are deeply rooted things that the surface doesn't scratch. And to call ourselves a name, we really need to know what the root of that name is and the origins of it and how it even came to be in our Americas. I'm done.
We're going to go to Tony Graham next. But I have a question for you that we want to answer later, Courtney. What makes an economist more qualified than a preacher when we're talking about African-American studies? But Tony,
I can go to answer that one real quick.
Well, no. I want to get to that later. I just want to make sure everyone gets.
Let her go.
No sense. The economist is the expert. That's not even a question really to say. That the economist is the expert. The economist knows the economy. He studied the economy. He studied all the things. The pastor hasn't studied the economy. The pastor studies the Bible.
Well, it says, and Tony can back me up, African American studies. So, but I'm just asking what
It
makes,
has to
you
be,
know,
it
the,
has to
what-
be more than African American studies. Somebody can be an African American study expert, and then someone can be a lawyer that knows the law. Someone can be an economist that knows the economy. Someone can be the sociologist that knows the social impact. There's so many components to, somebody can be the agriculturist that knows the nutrition or the health or the doctor or the medical. There's so many gamuts to that.
and somebody can be a pastor that knows the history of High Point.
If he's an Africana studies expert or some expert in some of those fields.
Well, how do
But
we
just
know we
knowing-
don't have,
Just knowing religion,
The-
you have to, Rob, you're
the
going down the
relig-
wrong rabbit
yeah.
hole.
No,
Because
no,
we're
no,
not
no, I'm just saying
really
what I
understanding
get the
the
point.
person.
That's a religion's a non sequitur.
Nah, but
It-
hear me
it-
out
Rob,
though, because
Rob-
there is a point here.
Religion's a
So
non
what
sequitur.
what constitutes an expert on African American life in High Point? Does it go by a
We need to
degree,
find a
right?
definition. Yeah, we
Right?
need to
Is
find
it a
definition,
degree
'cause
alone?
maybe we
Because
don't know.
someone who is deeply rooted in the city, I get it. I get it. There's a point, and that's, I feel like that's a great area. You know what I mean?
He could
Because
be the
what if
one. It's
someone,
gonna be a
does it have to
citizen.
be? Does everyone on this commission have to have a degree?
Let me help out a little bit. Let me help out so that we can move it a little forward a little bit. I trust the selection process and how it has been lined out. I wish I could share that, but that would not be in good faith with my position. Personally, it's Tony Graham speaking. I'm committed to vetting individuals who serve as knowledgeable / really have a passion for moving this disparity, this 400, 500, how many years you want to talk about, of issues in our community forward. I mean, somebody might have a degree, they might not. I can't say that. You know what I'm saying? That's why it says activism, right? Somebody might be a social activist and dropped out in the 10th grade, but they've, you know, got themselves together, maybe got a GED or whatever. I'm not saying that they will qualify or not, because I'm only one person on that 8-member panel, you know. But I would be willing to vet someone who has the passion. One thing I tell my children is, like, who's the smartest person in the room? Is it the person that knows everything, or is it the person that's willing to find out what it is they don't know? You understand what I'm saying? This commission, hopefully, and I've heard it spoken in this panel today, hopefully would seek out the brain power, if you will. We have 12, 13 4-year institutions in the triad, in the greater triad, 3 HBCUs.
Oh shit.
You know what I'm saying? Two law schools. You know what I mean? Come on now, people.
Oh,
You know, we don't have to have that on the panel, I wouldn't think. But you know, it'd be good if they do, if they are, but they're obviously people gonna be disqualified if they live in Greensboro, Winston-Salem, Kernersville. You know, do the professors at these colleges live in High Point? Probably not, unless they teach at HPU or something. There were just some that teach at A&T and Wake and Winston-Salem State that live in High Point, maybe. That doesn't necessarily qualify them either. There may be other things that disqualify them. You know what I mean? So I think that we have to trust the process. The biggest thing is getting people to apply. That's why I'm on here today. Community, apply.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. And you know, that's the point that, you know, I think, you know, we have to be, you know, careful of what this all means. Remember, we have requirements for the application that says they have to be from High Point. So that limits what we can do with our selections. I mean, do we know an economist that lives in High Point? So I want to go down the list and kind of get an idea of where we think we can go with this, because we've got to look at community leaders. We've got to look at those that are committed. We've got to look at, backgrounds. And already they're saying an educational background. Well, that may limit what we're able to do, because what's the education has to be in? Does it have to be in African American studies? We can have a person who studied economy. That's not necessarily an economist, but again, all that plays into the whole picture. But I don't want to get too deep into that. I know Delia had her hand up and wanted to see if she wanted to make a comment.
Okay, I heard reference to the pastors only know the Bible and they don't know anything about the economy, but I beg to differ. Some of them have degrees as well. They study. And if you go into the Bible itself gives reference to economy. We look at Joseph. He was chosen as a child to become the leader of a great nation and brought back his people to provide food in a life for them. So the Bible is just not talking about, be saved, praise the Lord, and you're going to get into heaven. It references everything because God is the creator of everything. Amen.
Amen. We're going to go to Ken.
Okay. All right. I've waited patiently my turn.
Thank you, sir.
So,
Let me get my bell ready.
here's what I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna try to condense this. And this is my view, and I understand that in addition to a pastor, you may be other things. So I would kind of picture it as a scoring chart. So a history in African American studies might get you a +5 points. A history in economic studies might get you, in my opinion, +10 points. Okay. Being a pastor means we gotta take a step back and look at what you've done in your position as a pastor. For me, being a pastor in and of itself says nothing. But in your position as a pastor, what have you done? You've taken in, and maybe an audit of sorts, if you want to describe it that way. What are you taking in and what are you contributing to the community? So, Rob, yourself, you've been involved in this fight since, the very early days. This is not something that we've been working on since, February. It's not something we've been working on since September. This reparations project is the culmination of years worth of work. Okay. 4 years. There you go. All right. Okay. In all of that time, we've been in constant communication with the High Point clergy. Okay. Show me the one that has taken up the mantle of, yeah, you know what? Reparations for my congregation, for the people I serve, for the poor people that give their last few pennies to me in this pulpit every Sunday. Maybe they need some reparations. Show me the one in 4 years. Show me the one today that has taken up that mantle to say, you know what? I'm for my people. This is my flock. I am charged by God with their protection and their provision, and I'm gonna fight for them. Show me the one. I don't even bring two. Bring one. Okay, go ahead.
Rob has a hand up.
And I see you, Tony, but this is too good. Show me the lawyer or the economist has done the same thing.
I can do that. Absolutely.
So,
Wait.
are you suggesting that the pastor should be under extra scrutiny as an applicant because he's a pastor?
100% yes.
Okay, well then, so should every white applicant too.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my God.
But
Triple scrutiny there.
And
yeah,
every
but
black one,
quadruple.
and every black one as well, I'll say that because every black one is not for us either. So all kinfolk ain't skin folk, so
Yeah,
all
and
skin
that's
folk
true.
ain't kinfolk.
Mr. Graham, you got
So
your work cut out for you.
That's it. That's it. That's it. Scrutiny for everyone.
I would
Scrutiny
Ken,
for everyone. Double scrutiny for pastors and triple scrutiny for white folk. There you go. That's it.
I wanted to add to Ken's response, considering that
Ashe.
a substantial amount of our collective wealth goes back into the Black church. Yes, they owe that to us. I mean, so we
And
definitely
from there,
need
it
to,
disappears into the ether.
and it just disappears into the ether. Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, pastors definitely need to be held extra accountable because they got a lot to answer for.
The pastors
And
do?
one other, I just explained why.
Yeah.
Because of the money.
We need to get some
Exactly.
pastors on here one
No,
Exactly.
it goes beyond money.
And and also,
Yeah. But
can
the
I
money
can
too,
I just
yes.
add one other thing, Ken? And Rob, can I add just one other thing? I heard a comment about how the Bible addresses every single thing in the in the material world. And the example that was given was purely anecdotal. And this goes to the fact that Black folks in general, there's certain conversations we don't really handle very well. Religion is one of them. Black men, especially sports, entertainment, and politics. We just starting to get our game straight on that. So this can't be this can't be an emotional type of reasoning when we're talking about who needs to be involved in this whole process, this movement toward reparations. These are people that have to provide pragmatic solutions that bear fruit in the material world. And religion, I mean, it definitely gives you that inner strength, that drive to pursue a vision, but it doesn't give you any pragmatic solutions into reaching it.
Okay, hold that thought, Thomas. I want to go to Tony next.
I just want to say this. I think we're getting into a discussion that gets away from the topic at hand, which is who should serve. You know, I can tell by this group that you're not pro pastor, but I would like to just say that there are pastors out here that are activists. I would like to say that also I look at pastors as individuals. They're flesh and blood, just like each one of us are. Yes, they do hold a little bit more, I guess, they're on a bigger scope, a bigger radar, if you will, because of their position and what they've chosen. But without a pastor being on here, I think we just need to really stick to who do you think would qualify? You know what I'm saying? Like who in your opinion would be well served in this commission? You know, I'm not going to give any names, but I do have some names of pastors that are activists. Rob, you know one that worked with us, you know what I'm saying? And if you don't know that gentleman, I suggest you meet him, and I'll tell you his name on a different time if y'all haven't met him. Be glad to introduce you. Very active.
Tony.
So anyway, I just feel like, you know, pastors are people. You know what I'm saying? I'm not looking at if they submit an application, I'm not looking to say, oh, you pastor of you know, AYZ Baptist Church. You know what I'm saying? That I'm not, you know, I mean, I'm not gonna consider your application because you're a pastor. You know what I'm saying? It's just not gonna happen. I can tell y'all that. I can tell y'all that straight up, that we would scrutinize each individual based on their presentation, no matter what their background is, as long as they fit the criteria that's been set forth, it is, you know, that's just the way it is. And anybody that is a High Point resident, I can't say that enough. You know what I'm saying? We all are High Pointers. We know our people. You know what I'm saying? We are looking for High Point residents to move this pendulum and move this needle forward. So I just don't think we need to spend a lot of time bashing pastors right now. You know what I'm saying? There may be a time for that. And I would suggest that we invite a panel of them in for that discussion. But right now, let's just talk about who we feel would be qualified. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse
I'm
me,
going to go
Hold on,
to,
before we move on,
excuse me.
I got to say this.
Hold on.
well, no, wait, no, hold on.
Pastors
No, hold on,
Pastors
because,
was
no, wait,
presented
wait.
as a
No,
qualified.
wait, hold on.
Pastors-
Remember, Ken, we're getting off the subject.
No, we're not.
I need to
We're
get
not,
through the
'cause he
hands
just said
first.
something.
I need to get through the hands first. Delia had her hand up. Courtney had her hand up. Let's get back to it, but let's let everybody speak. So,
Okay.
Delia, you have the floor.
I will pass. Mr. Graham addressed it as make it general, do not bash the pastors. And all of this application process should apply to everybody, not just the pastor. Thank you.
All right, next is Courtney.
I'm in 100% agreement with everything that both Delia and Tony said. And I think we missed it. I think we missed the whole marker with that, because we were actually saying that, not that we wanted to exclude anyone if they're qualified, no matter if they are a plumber. We don't care. If they have the background and the education and the knowledge, again, to move the needle forward, that part shouldn't matter. But I think we should go back to Malcolm X real quick, and how he said Malcolm X brought everyone together. Malcolm X was a Muslim. He brought Christians together. He brought Protestants, Lutherans, Pentecostals, holiness, whomever it was. He said, today, let's put religion to the side and let's come together as Black people. And as Black people, we can find the thread, because if we go back and forth as we've done for the last 30 to 45 minutes on pastor this and religion this, then we're going to miss it. So if we go back to Blackness and find that common thread, we won't be bickering over these little petty things. These things hold us, they're barriers, and they were created as barriers. So instead of us picking and punching each other like this, let's move on in our Blackness. And in our Blackness, I'm sure we can find qualified people wherever, whatever their professions are. We can find the qualified people that need to help us move forward, period. Ken?
Oh,
Thank you.
okay.
Thomas had his hand up.
Here's the thing. Well, Thomas, can I go?
I just going to make a quick comment, Ken. I think,
Good.
and Courtney is absolutely on point with it. What we're formulating here, for lack of a better definition, is a think tank. Okay. And think tanks are driven on pragmatism and creating solutions that bear actual material results. You know, if we're thinking about reparations and economic parity, creating economic parity between Black and white, the people that we bring to that we have to incorporate into this committee have to actually have an expertise, excuse me, I'm getting a little tongue-tied here, that's going to direct us in that vein. You know, I mean, so the point of it is, I mean, the whole religion thing was not, again, to bash pastors per se, but it is something that really needs to be handled preemptively. We have to nip it in the bud, because that's a default that we always fall back on as Black folks. You know, we you know, people who have visibility, but they have no, and activists, you know, are great as well. But the problem is that they react. You know, we need people that can create proactive solutions and have a record of doing things that, you know, in that vein, to bear fruit. So, I mean, that's what I wanted to say, Ken.
Okay. Here's my thing. Because I think we've drifted substantially from the question that was put on the floor. We said, do we want economists? Yes, we definitely want economists. Do we want someone with, you know, a history in Black studies? Yes. Then the question was put on the floor, do we want the clergy? Okay, in that context, the clergy was presented as a qualification in and of itself. And many people on this line said, no, that is not a qualification to serve on this commission. Again, if you show me the pastor that is doing something that a lot like what Thomas just said, that brings about that parity, if they have a history and something to contribute towards that mission, great. But being clergy in and of itself is not a qualification. Absolutely not. Black studies, yes, that's a qualification. Economics, yes, that's a qualification. Clergy, no.
Finance.
Okay. Well, let me
Qualification.
just say something after all of this. And I want everyone to take notice is that we get stuck on the clergy. It was a simple question with a yes or no answer. I'm going down a list to see who's qualified. For some reason, there are those on this panel who have a strong opinion about the clergy. So let's not make that the pervasive point of what you're saying, because that's what's happening here. Every time we talk, we stop. And I think Mr. Graham pointed out to us not too long ago that we want to focus on who we can look to, just like an economist. If you're telling me an economist has more compassion for Black folks, I beg to disagree, because they don't see color.
It's not about
And it's
compassion.
economists that work with they work with municipalities. Economists work with city planners. So we want to talk redlining. Where do you think that the politicians can get the information? It's from an economist. And how many lawyers have we seen that have come to the NAACP's meeting and say they want to help, just in High Point? And we have many lawyers. I haven't seen them. So I don't want to put the clergy out there as if they are any more, any less than a lawyer, than an economist, than a doctor, than a mother, a father, a child, a recipient of what we're talking about here, which is reparations. You know, who do we want on this panel? Let's put it out there, because that's where we're at today. We're talking about a commission that is going to be formed. We need to spend 20 minutes on who we want to put on that list. Give us a name. Everybody, round table, give me a name of one person we want to see on this commission for reparations. I'll start. I would like to see Connie Reynolds. Connie has a history dating back to when I think she was, how old were you, Connie, when you first put that article out? What did you put out there? Explain to the folks your qualifications, because you are a child of High Point. You have seen the progresses that have been made, and you have been vocal about reparations since you was a teen, I believe. Isn't that right?
I wasn't a teen. It was in the 2000 teens. I started an online petition and group. It's called Reparations Now. It's on Facebook. The petition is live. It wasn't forever ago. It might have been like four years ago, maybe. But it just baffled me when I started doing my own research and reading, and discovered that every year I had been alive, the bill was brought to the floor every January to just put a commission together on the national level. And it was something that we didn't talk about around the dinner table and at cookouts and just growing up. And I started asking people, what about reparations? And I was talking to people who were like old enough to be my parents, explaining what reparations were about. It really bothered me. And I felt like I had to do what I could do to spread it from, where I was. I didn't grow, a huge following. There are not a million people subscribed to it, but I started. I don't know if that counts as qualification, but.
So who would you want to see on the commission, Connie?
I would like to see, now that don't mean he would agree to do it, but I would like to see Glenn Chavis on the commission because he is a historian and he's well read and well versed in the history of High Point. And not only that, but he has access to the records and the resources and knows where to find what needs to be found. And he's very vocal about his knowledge and he shares facts daily on purpose and has been doing so for years. So that's my name.
I'm going to go to Jason next. Jason, who would you want to see on the commission?
I was also going but I think if I was going to pick another, was real knowledgeable in the history of those.
Come back to me, sir. You're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, I said either Phyllis Bridges.
Phyllis Bridges. Okay.
If we look at the commission, I mean, what it says study, and they've got a well-versed history, but both do of the city of High Point. So that'd be my name.
Okay, I'm going to go to Courtney next. Courtney, who would you like to see on the commission? We'll come back to Courtney. Ken, who would you like to see on the commission?
I'd like to see Courtney.
Okay. Next, I'm going to go to Thomas Scott. Thomas, who would you like to see on the commission? And maybe we'll have to get back.
Hold on, I had hold on, Rob. I had some issues there. No, I said I second Ken's motion. I would like to see Courtney on the commission. She's got the drive. She's got the drive. She's got that tenaciousness, and she has the ability to keep everyone's eye on the ball that this is for Black people. But I just want to make a quick comment to that. I think we're over conflating certain things when we're talking about people who have a humanitarian spirit as opposed to people who are pragmatists. It has to be a balance of all of these things. An economist is going to have a cold regard when it comes to the crunching the numbers and giving the projections as to what solutions or what measures are going to bring Black people to a certain point by this juncture in time. Yeah, but we also got to have people like Courtney to say, okay, this is something that is solely geared toward the interests of Black people, but specifically the descendants of slaves, or the people who died on the killing fields of the South, or here in High Point. So yeah, that's why, we need those kind of people. So yeah, I go around with Ken's recommendation for Courtney.
Okay. Courtney, you still with us?
My apologies. Can you tell me what happened? I'm doing two things.
If you
We
could
just
choose
recommend you for
one
the
person to be on the commission, who would that one person be?
If I could choose one person that could be a part of the commission.
Yep. Now, have you heard the tally sheet so far? We've got 2 for Glenn Chavis, 1 for Phyllis Bridges, and 2 for Courtney Wilson.
My name is Courtney Austin Wilson. Who is
I'm
Courtney
sorry.
Wilson?
I think you guys meant Courtney Austin Wilson. Is that correct? I will say yes, but 2 for you.
Okay. I wasn't going to say a person's name in actuality. I was going to say the best candidate for the job, who is the most qualified, is who I want on. I'm not, I would like to weigh out the backgrounds of each individual and to see who's most qualified. It's not, we're trying to get our people to the finishing line. So all of these personalities are wonderful, but whoever's the most qualified is the individual. It may not be me. I don't know who it's going to be, but I just want the most qualified person. So it would be nice if we could have had like a call, like a come to kind of thing, where we found out who are the experts in our community. We don't even know who's in our community that lives here, that has moved here, or is an invested interest. I heard you say Carl Chavis. I know Ms. Sims. So we know they're qualified because of their backgrounds. But who are some others that we don't know of that's in our community? I haven't heard of Bob Brown at all. I mean, I haven't heard of certain people that may know the economics, but may have some real connections. I just haven't heard some of these people been a part of the conversation. So I want to think, I do want to think bigger than our group. That's what I want to say.
Okay.
I do want to think bigger than the people that are in our four walls.
Excellent point. And again, you guys, I want to, ladies and gentlemen, I want to point out that we have movement on the reparations resolution. We are now at a point where we have a selection committee that is tasked with getting a commission established to study reparations for the citizens of High Point. It's time, guys. We've made it. And now comes the part where, we have to get the information out, and we have to get it out in a certain amount of time. And, we have to make sure that we're ready for, that debt that we have all discussed is what we're owed, what the citizens of High Point is owed. Real quick, we do have our guest who made it in, Ms. Bernita Sims. She's former mayor of High Point, NAACP member, and one of the leading advocates for this reparations resolution. Ms. Sims, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. I'm kind of dual tasking here, so thank you for having me back again and allowing me to be a part of this discussion.
Welcome, welcome.
Good morning.
So we've been discussing the commission. You can chime in if you want. And right now, the biggest task I think that we're faced with is choosing the best candidate, as Courtney has said, and going through who those candidates are. We as individuals here on this podcast, I think our input is going to be needed. Because if we're all about the task of reparations, then we all need to be about the task of getting the information out. I think with this commission, we need to pay special attention to how it's developing, because there's going to be many nuances to it. What does reparations mean? How much does it mean? Who it's going to cover? How do we, determine who is of lineage? I mean, that could be an easy question, as simple as, saying that we go to, what is that, genealogy.com or ancestry.com. There are records that they have, and it's records that we're going to need. We're going to need research. I mean, I didn't hear anyone mention to get a researcher. I think that's a great individual to get. Someone who can bring information that goes back 3, 4, 10 generations that talk specifically to what the debt is owed and why it's owed. So there's a lot of things to this. And I appreciate everyone that came out today and shared in what we want to do as we move forward. And I'm going to open up the floor now to anyone who has any comments, questions, and we can take those as they come in.
Thomas has a hand up. Oh, Mr. Anita does too.
I see Thomas. Is your hand up, or is it just remained up?
It just remained up, but yeah, I had a comment to make on why actually Courtney would be qualified, not just by virtue of the fact that she's a part of this panel, but that she comes from, she has a very practical knowledge of what generational wealth means. I mean, she has a farm that goes back, I believe, what, 6 generations?
8 generations.
8 generations.
I'm just
Really?
6.
8 generations in your
8
family.
generations. We're 1867 on our deeds. And I'm a century farm as well. It's called the Great ADOS Family Century Farm.
Okay. I mean, she understands the aspect of generational wealth. She understands what it means to I mean, as far as owning real estate, owning property, and how to leverage your investments. Because I mean, what do you do once you receive these reparations? I think she has a lot of practical knowledge to bear. So I just wanted to say that, but we had moved on to something else. So, but yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Next we have Miss Sims, Miss Benita Sims.
Again, thank you all for allowing me to speak. I'm not sure if at the beginning of this podcast, we talked about the actual selection committee and what sort of transpired in that first meeting that we had with the city of High Point. I don't know if Tony shared that information with you all, but I kind of want to go over that just a little bit to kind of give you some direction on how that selection process as it stands right now is going to roll out. And then what we're hoping to achieve in this process. And there was a statement made, I believe it was by Courtney, who said that her thoughts were that this committee should be, sort of a well-rounded group of individuals that you really didn't need one group of people over another group of people, because there's room in this whole conversation for a lot of voices to come in and speak from where they are and where they reside and what has happened to them. And so the construct of the One High Point Commission is basically following the guidelines of what was included in the resolution. And so in that resolution, it said that the individuals who are qualified to serve on the commission by virtue of their education, training, activism, or experience, particularly in the field of African American studies and reparatory justice. So that's what the makeup of the commission is supposed to look like. And so as the selection committee goes through this process, you look at the individuals that are coming in with their applications and their resumes, which again, this is available online as we speak to apply for the commission. But the job of the selection committee is to look at these applications, look at the resumes who come with it, and then look at that to grade it on a scale that says, this individual possesses X, and to what degree do they possess what that is. And so sometimes in the process of doing that, it can get more heavily weighted towards academics and academia, which in my mind is problematic, because you can't have a whole commission full of individuals who speak to you from something they have studied, okay? And something, not to say to discount that at all, but I believe that the experience of a Courtney Austin Wilson has to play into that somewhere. You see what I'm saying? To bring it down to a place where, we've got diversity on that commission and we've got more than one set of voices. And so that's going to be the challenge, I think, of the commission, is to get those everyday, again, activist folk in the community, the people who in their earlier years when they were 18, 19, and 20, decided they wanted to be Black Panthers. Well, they got a story, okay? Those individuals who marched and didn't necessarily go and do African-American studies, but they have an African-American history. And so that information still has to be available in the room as the conversations move forward with the One High Point Commission regarding what has happened in the past to individuals who have lived in High Point, our ancestors, generations ago, what was done on Washington Street to literally, diminish that whole group of folk who own their own businesses and, had an ecosystem where we all kind of, bought into and fed into and paid into. that is now gone. So all of that has to be a part of this consideration. And then at the very end of this, the recommendations coming forth out of that One High Point Commission have to be real things, real and tangible things that we can touch and we can feel. You see what I'm saying? And so sometimes we get all off into that whole other piece that says we're going to do these very certain things, but they're not tangible things. They're not things that touch us every day, or they don't touch the individuals in this community, or they won't touch my great-grandchildren and my great-great-grandchildren. And those are the things we need to think about, because where we are right now, it took generations to get here. And it's going to take generations to fix it. So it's not going to be something that we can do a real big splash and get it done right now. And everybody's got their feel good moment and saying, oh yeah, High Point did X. But how does it generationally impact African Americans in our community when we start talking about what these remedies are and what they look like? So I think that has to be a part of all of this as well, as that One High Point Commission moves forward. So we have a definitive deadline on how we're going to move forward with this based on the resolution that was adopted. So those recommendations for the individuals to be seated on that One High Point Commission has to happen by May 2nd. That's the date that is incorporated into the resolution. So it was 90 days from the date of adoption that the recommendations have to go forth to the city council with those individuals that we're recommending to be seated as members of the One High Point Commission. And where I look at it and say, you know, we have individuals that, you know, bring certain things to the table and should be able to express their thoughts around what has happened to the community, our community in High Point. Some folk have a presence and they have a history in our community, but it doesn't necessarily lend to what we're trying to get done. You see, so we go back and you look at a person and say, oh yeah, they should be the perfect person. You know, and you look at me and say, oh yeah, she should be the perfect person. She did this and this and this and this. But I look at it and say, not all that lends to what we're trying to do. I've done a whole bunch of things, but it may not necessarily be what would be impactful as a member of the commission to actually move forward with how we talk about reparatory justice and how we talk about remedies and reparations in our community. So that needs to be a part of where we go and what we do as well. So it's a big task. I look at it, and I don't think even at the time that we started this whole process, we really thought about the implications of where we were going with this. And as you can see, you know, it's catching on like a wildfire when you start talking about it. And so there were some who said, oh, this will never happen, that will never happen. Well, look where we are, okay? We're on the cusp of being able to do something that has not been done in some other communities that ought to be talking about it. They're much larger than we are. They're much more diverse than we are. They have black populations that are much larger than ours, and yet they're not having these conversations. They get an easy fix as opposed to what we're getting ready to go through with this process. So I just want to say to you guys, keep talking about it, keep putting it out there, keep chopping it up on these podcasts, bringing different perspectives to where it is we're going and what we're doing. And at the same time, you know, bring in that voice that said, that's a naysayer that says, oh, well, you all don't need reparations. I think people ought to hear what folk are thinking. You see, some people are bold enough and brave enough to say what they're thinking. And so the other flip side of that coin needs to be present in this conversation, because that's going to help us move further along than where we are right now, knowing that there are naysayers out there and some who look like us, who are basically saying, we don't need reparations, you know, people need to do X, Y, Z. Well, okay, I get it. But our prisons aren't full of us in a larger degree than others because, you know, people put themselves in that position. Systemic things happen that put us where we are, and we need to recognize it. We need to come up with ways to fix it and to make this better. And I think that this is the start to where we can potentially go. So everybody on this call is younger than me. So I probably won't be here to see the other side, as Dr. King says. I've been to the mountaintop, but I may not see us get into the promised land. but I believe it's going to happen. And so we just have to rely on these voices to be continuous in this process. So I'm going to stop right there.
Okay, I think I'm going to go to Courtney because I believe Thomas is still, he likes his hand up. So I'm going to go to Courtney first, and I'll come back to you, Thomas.
Okay, I was just gonna add in a little bit. Those of us who do not make the commission, there's still a lot of work for us to do. A lot of work. We have to support them. We have to continue to get the word out. So we should not take it personal if we make it or don't make it, whoever wants to apply, we should just keep moving forward and getting the job done and supporting the people that do make the commission in any way possible that they need our assistance, especially getting the word out to the community. Another thing, I was going to suggest a couple of things, Rob, as well. And it would be nice if we had a space like the High Point Theater or a gym, and we set up like, I'm a visionary. Let me just say that off the thing for the group. I'm definitely a visionary, and when I see something, I like to see it come to fruition because I know that God placed it there for a reason, and it's for us to be able to move ourselves into another direction. I see ourselves like renting a space and having an interviewer, and we invite Black families. We publicize it on the news. We just get the word out as much as possible. We knock on doors. We get the support of our local. I told you before, our local sororities. That's what they say they do, is work in the community.
Well, dang. My gosh, Courtney. We need some reparations on internet access. That's what we need. I'm not trying to be funny, y'all. I'm just saying. Well, hopefully she'll come back. And until she does, let me just say one thing out to those that are listening to us. You can see a copy of the reparations resolution on the High Point NAACP's website. That website is highpointnaacp.org. You will have access to make comments. Of course, you can join the NAACP, join the movement. I think it's a great time for us to participate. Also, you can go to the city's website. That is highpointnc.gov. Again, that's highpointnc.gov. The application to submit for membership to the commission is on that website. You can just pull it up, type in High Point Reparations. It should come up. But, we encourage everyone to go out. Remember, no voice is too small. No one is too great. This is a collective effort that we want to, bring about some change. Excuse me, I'm not crying. That was something else. I know you guys looking at me looking for tears, but that may come because if I can see the day that these reparations happen, those tears of joy I can have for my children and the opportunities that my grandchildren will have, that they don't have to look at themselves as if they are somehow not worthy. Little small things that, kids see on TV, little things they see in the news, even how we interact amongst ourselves, that leaves an impression. And so with reparations, I just want to put out there that we all need to participate. We all have to come together in the spirit of brotherhood and sisterhood for all the sisters out there. But we need to come together. And we've got to come together now. We got 60 days for a commission. We got a year for reparations. Some ideas on what reparations can look like. It's historic, guys. It's historic. And did Courtney come back to us? No. She probably burned up that internet connection. But I like it, though. I love it. So, hey guys, listen, we're going to have to cut short today. We normally go to about 12, but we're going to have to cut short, but we had a great conversation. I want to thank my guests for coming on, Ms. Delia Bates, Ms. Bernita Sims, Mr. Tony Graham. We really appreciate all the efforts that you guys put out there every day to help with this kind of activity. We need to be more involved, and we need to be a participant in what we call change. I want to thank my panel today. Connie, I want to thank you for coming on. Thomas, Ken, Jason, and Courtney. Hopefully, you're out there, you can hear us. But I want to thank you guys. Remember, guys, every day, Saturdays, 10 to 12 p.m. We have Reparations Saturdays. We would love for you guys to come out and join us. You can put comments into the chat because we want to hear what you guys think. So, for everyone here at Reparations Saturdays, I want to wish you a great weekend and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
Don't hang up.
I think he means just the panel. Yeah.
Yeah.
And why am I having echo?
Why do you have an echo? I don't know.
That's Ken's system. There you
I
go.
know, right? Well,
I've
hold
been
on.
waiting to
Hold
eat
on.
my
Let me
bacon.
stop. Let me stop the live stream real quick.
Hurry up.
I'm